I want to buy a paper tuner.
Yeah. Do some bear shaft tuning.
I should be bear shafting all night in my garage.
What you doing out there? Bear shafting? With who?
Pretty easy to make. I just got to get some. The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Deer Grow.
Man, it's almost food plot season, Jared, and Deer Grow is one of those products that has really changed the way that we plant food plots and the success we've seen from them.
No doubt. I've been, trying to plant food plots my entire whitetail hunting career, which is a little shorter than yours. But the minute that I started, or that I realized that I could get Deer Grow back into some of these remote plots where I couldn't get lime or fertilizer, especially in the 50-pound bag, format. Mm-hmm. So everything was changed. I could get into these spots moving forward with a backpack sprayer, and that's since escalated to these 40 or 60 gallon sprayers, and we're doing upwards of 5 to 10 acre food plots just with Deer Grow and having phenomenal success.
Yeah, and with the price of fertilizer, lime, diesel, everything this year, what better way to get in there and grow a successful food plot at about a third of the cost? Check out Deer Grow at deergrow.com. And we're back.
Hey,
HUNTR Podcast, episode 130. Mm-hmm. Nick keeps us in line.
Just grinding, dude.
I know. It is June 1st. We are out of May. May is like a slump month from the deer hunter mindset. We're coming
out of it. It was a little stagnant there for a while. I tell you what, if we get some rain, I'm going to be like a soybean on a...
We are dry. We are dry at this point.
Is there any rain in the forecast at this point?
I was looking because I also have beans.
I'm going to be like a freshly inoculated bean stout.
Maybe 2/100ths of an inch on Tuesday, and then maybe 5/100ths on the 10th, 10 days from now.
Wow. So it hasn't rained in, a week and a half?
Oh, it's dry. Yeah. We're looking at a 20-day dry streak here.
That's crazy.
Yeah, there's no rain.
I've got a couple, low percentage. It starts hovering in that 13 to...
Yeah, that ain't going to cut it.
Yeah. No,
it does look like maybe going into the 11th or 12th, we're going to get a front. But, that'll be 20-some days of no rain.
20 days. That's going to hurt antler growth this year, I bet.
It will. Crops are going to be...
behind.
Well, and it's kind of one of those things. It's like, where are you in it? Corn's already in the ground. For most people, beans are in the ground. You and I both have kind of held off here on the bean aspect.
Corn does all right without rain for a while, right?
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Hot and sunny is probably
it'll be fine. Humid. People underestimate.
And we did get a real good rain. The last time it rained, it was 2 days straight.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And in fact, last Sunday, I was in Kentucky for Memorial Day weekend. We got an all-day rain in Kentucky, which is where I have corn as well.
Yeah.
So, I'm not worried about that.
We're all talking about different forecasts. I'm looking at Summitville. You're looking at your map.
I got 3 states I'm looking at. Yeah. So, yeah, but across the board, it's been dry. So, yeah, let's say 10 more days. Yeah, most of these places, you're looking at 20 to 30 days of no to little rain. And that corn will make it. Your beans are going to be hurting. If you got beans in right before this shut off and you go 20 days without rain,
you're thirsty. Yeah,
that's not good.
Yeah. So I told you before we started here, I'm getting Pete is the DCNR guy called me. So I'm renting a no-till drill from him, and they just kind of go from person to person.
Just jump.
Renter to renter. So whoever's got it now is going to drop it for me at the church up the road. And so I'm going to pick it up, I think, tomorrow or Saturday, depending on.
And then you're planning on just drilling. You're just going to drill them.
I got to drill while I have the drill.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Got to drill when you drill.
Yeah. Because it's got to go to the next person. So, I don't see any reason not to.
No, it's just, you always try to get it in the ground, have that seed, vulnerable in the soil, as little as possible. But nothing you can do in that case. You're just going to be waiting on rain. Personally, I would rather it sit in the ground, not germinated, and start catching rain than catch a rain and go dry. Because those young seedlings are very vulnerable to drought.
Agreed. I don't think that they'll germinate.
No.
Until we get a rain.
Until you get a rain.
So I think we're okay because it's been dry. It's not like I'm putting it into moist soil.
No, they'll sit until it gets, and then you'll be, as long as we keep catching rain, you're fine. But if you put them in caught a rain, germinated, then went 20 days plus drought.
That's what my clover's doing.
Not
right
good.
Now, probably.
Yeah, my clover in some areas are burnt. My established clover looks really good, but it'll even start to go into, a bit of a slump here probably with that, how dry it's been.
Yeah.
It goes dormant pretty quick in the summertime.
I see a pretty substantial difference in my clover plots in areas that are shaded and thus, hold more moisture. Clover likes that moist soil. Typically on the edges where I get a lot more shade, it grows the best. So I'm not super stoked to go see what they look like right now.
It'll be interesting. I mean, it's so funny when you get into these planting aspects. Like we talked about it on a podcast ago. First of all, first year I've planted corn is freaking tough to grow. It's a pain in the ass.
How's yours look? You sent me a picture.
I
saw, at least there's corn in there.
Yeah, in Kentucky, I'm more encouraged this last trip than I was the trip before, because I was like, it's spotty. And it's not that it's not. I mean, I've got some solid rows through there, but I've also got 3-foot gaps, 4-foot gaps in between plants, which honestly,
you just said it's all in a row. It's just dropping seeds inconsistent.
Yeah, dropping seeds inconsistent.
You think that's a setting?
No, I think it's just the way that those seed cups are shit. They're not as good as like an actual corn planter seed cup, which is highly efficient at consistency of dropping.
Okay.
Those are not.
What do you mean a cup? A seed cup?
So basically, inside your drill, you've got your seed cup, and then it's actually got your essential, like your gear, which is going to be grabbing those seeds and feeding it through
like a
the
paintball
cup.
hopper.
Yeah, pretty much. And the more open it is, the more seed that comes through. The tighter it is, the less seed that comes through. Right. Well, I think because of the way that is set up mechanism-wise to cover a bunch of different types of seed, meaning, round seed, small seed, big seed, corn is like...
Wait a minute. There is no adjustment for the seed size?
There's just two different buckets, or two different hoppers. One for small seed, one for big seed.
Interesting.
So...
See, because this no-till drill that I'm getting ready to rent, I'm pretty sure has a specific seed set.
Absolutely. Yeah, this does not.
It's not a grain drill. It's the one I have, the one I'm getting.
Yeah, but yours is
drill.
a high-end no-till grain drill.
I don't know. It's public.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm sure it's a Great Plains or something.
Oh, and yours just is not?
Yeah, like that Great Plains drill costs $25,000.
The one I'm getting ready to use? Interesting. I don't know what brand it is.
But. Yeah, Great Plains, Land Pride, one of those two.
Okay.
And then mine's $6,500.
And that's, I'm sure, has something to do with the adjustability. And
I have to believe, and I know we've talked about this a lot. A lot of people are using them for food plots. I think I'm pretty sure these things are made in China. That's. I don't know if they're trying to hide that, but I'm pretty sure it's made in China, right? $6,500 for a no-till drill. I think it's made for like. I'm not.
Which doesn't mean it's bad quality.
Here,
it just means
right?
that it's cheap labor.
Am I going to sound racist? I think it's made for like rice and stuff like that. Did that sound bad? I mean, but that's what it's rice production.
Is there a rice hopper? Like
grasses.
Small, medium rice.
I think that's what I don't know. I think that's what it's for though, is those kind of whatever they're planning. Cause I mean, people don't understand. China is a major agricultural country.
Yeah.
So I think that's
a
what
lot of people to feed.
I think that's what it's made for. Whereas, so it's easy for us to adapt it to.
I don't think so. I mean, they're making it for a U.S. market. You think there's...
No, I don't think so.
You think there's Chinese farmers using that same drill you have?
Yes.
Yeah. Maybe.
I would say so.
Small time? Were they trying to hunt pandas?
Maybe.
There's no hunting in China, is there?
No, I don't think you can hunt a gun in China.
I'll tell you what, that's one country I don't care ever to visit.
Yeah. No, I don't think so. But yeah, so I think that's why it's easy for us when it comes down to like oats, wheat, brassica, clover. I mean, that stuff flows through that seed cup and that essential gear pretty easily. Corn is awkward, right? It's not a round, like beans. I've heard a lot of people said, hey, this thing works great for beans.
Well, so, and I haven't done it yet, but there's a manual that comes with this drill. And Pete was telling me yesterday, because I asked him, I said, hey, do I need to mess with the settings on this? And so he's like, honestly, dude, it's pretty complicated. Like it's based on the size of the exact size of the seed. And so it's like on a per seed basis is how you're supposed
that's way more advanced than what we're dealing
calculation. With. And I was like, he said whoever's planting before me is planting beans, so he's like, it's probably pretty close. Just go with that.
See, I've got like different sprocket sizes, which is going to determine how fast that turns, which means how fast it drops seed, and then the seed opening.
Which is
and
fine,
that's it.
Honestly, I mean, as long as it's
yeah, it's not we talked about this before. It is not a corn planter, right? That's not like when you see people going out with like an actual grain drill,
which is a planter,
right? When it's tilled ground, I mean, those spaces between those corn seedlings is like precise, whatever it is, 6 inches, I don't know, 8 inches. It's freaking
pretty amazing. Actually.
Yeah, it's freaking precise, right? This is not that. This
gives you a whole new appreciation for a cornfield.
Oh, absolutely.
You're like, wow, there was a lot of things had to go right to get this.
This is just like, drop the seed out. Don't drop too much out. And even still, like I've got 3 or 4 corn plants that are within 6 inches together because it dropped 3 kernels out, and buried it. So, I mean, that said, from a food plot standpoint, if it continues to succeed like it is, it'll be fine. Is there going to be spaces in between?
Weeds, right? You just got weed
competition.
competition.
So I nuked that, and
So it planted them good. There's adequate spacing, and it's and they
more
germinated.
than adequate spacing. Yeah, I mean, in some of this,
did it put out all your seed? Like if you said, "Hey, I want to put however many pounds to the acre," it did that.
It did. Just it would group some, and then you'd have some that were like, I've got certain lines that it looks like I used a corn planter.
Yeah,
like it's perfect. There's just other places that it's not.
Yeah.
Maybe some of that is seed set on the ground and it didn't germinate more than it didn't drop it, right? Because we talked about.
It does happen.
Yeah, going through old pasture, it wasn't getting 1.5 inches deep and burying that seed cleanly on every pass.
What did it look like? You had just sprayed it and it was like laid
No,
up?
I mean, it was dropping them in, but sometimes it'd be laying on the top because there's no wheel behind it to push it down in, right? It just rolls over top of it, basically.
What rolls over top of it?
It's a cage, basically. That's what turns the...
Like a cultipacker behind it?
No, it's an open cage that turns the actual gears to drop the seed. So it's like a big open roll cage.
Yeah, and is it a dual purpose? Is that supposed to cover the seed up?
I don't think
What's
so.
supposed to cover the seed up?
Scrapers in the back.
Oh, scrapers.
Which do nothing.
At
least in pasture. Doesn't do anything.
It's got to be loose. It wants loose soil.
Yeah, loose soil.
Well,
So I'm building I'm taking that thing off. It's a piece of shit. Taking that thing off, and I bought...
What, the scraper?
Mm-hmm. I bought heavy-duty conveyor belt rollers
that
I'm going to try to put on the back. And it's not real big because you don't have a lot of room, but it's heavy. And it's just going to be... That'll be my back kind of mini cultipacker.
As long as the spacing... As long as it doesn't push the blades up too high.
Correct.
That'd be good to have like a cultipacker. It seems like it would have a cultipacker.
So what's interesting is the drills. So they have a no-till version, which is what I own. They have a drill version, which I didn't buy because that would require you to till it before you drill it. Do you like that? Might be their new slogan.
Till it before you drill it.
Yeah. It has a cultipacker.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
It has a cultipacker on the back of it. So like I saw somebody with it and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, why do you have a cultipacker? Mine costs more, and I get scrapers.
Well, mine definitely does. Like when I think of a no-till drill, it's got all the wheels, and the wheels are what cover,
and so
the soil back together.
in your good no-till drills, right? There are 2 angled wheels that sit behind
I think it's just
where
one.
the seed drops in.
No, there's 2 angled blades that cut it open, and then there's one wheel that rides
it and pushes
just
it
like
down.
think about a smaller version of like a seedling planter.
Yeah, and I mean that's perfect. That's what you want. That's how you're going to get that seed buried. Right, mine doesn't have that.
Interesting.
So
Seems
I think
like a key component to it.
Yeah, well, again, cheaped out China, whatever. So for what it did. Now, I killed everything with. I did a pre-emergent broadleaf killer, which was simazine. I did glyphosate at the same time. So I nuked it when I planted that corn. I mean, everything was dead. But as the temperature of the soil went up, so the corn would germinate, so did the grasses that were in that seed bed that had not been killed. And so basically what I was competing with is I have a lot of grasses that came up in that plot. So this past weekend I went in and sprayed a grass and broadleaf corn selective herbicide. So it'll essentially kill broadleaves, kill grasses, but not affect my corn. And that, if I suppress those weeds, I should be in good shape.
Tell you what would have helped. Hindsight's 2020.
Roundup Ready corn would have helped, but
Roundup
it's
Ready would
3
help.
times the cost.
Roundup Ready would help. Also, and I learned this from our burn project, is spraying those grasses the previous.
Yeah, that would have nuked them down. Yep, that would have been a huge help because it's pasture grasses coming up. Yeah.
Which I guess, if you might as well treat broadleafs while you're at it. So, I mean, even just starting maintenance of that plot early. Yeah, anytime you're planting a, food plot seed that is not Roundup Ready, you probably need to start prepping those weeds.
And I had no idea at the beginning. Like, I cheaped out. Like, I got this corn seed, which is highly rated, but it's not Roundup Ready. So eventually I was like, damn, I should have got $320 for a bag of Roundup Ready corn versus $95 for a bag that I bought.
Yeah.
It's a substantial difference for a food plot. And that's what at the end of the day, like I wish it would look like a farmer's field, right? Ultimately, I'm not investing the money and time into it to make it.
How much tillable acreage you have there?
Oh, 45.
I mean, that's the right amount of tillable acreage. Like if there's a farmer in the area to...
There isn't. I'm sure there is. I just, I didn't have time to really hunt them down this year. I mean, the problem is and it's the benefit to this farm, is I'm in cattle country. So like everything around me is basically cattle pastures. So nobody's planting tillable stuff. If the neighbor was planting tillable, I'd be like, hey, plant this.
Yeah, I do love hunting cattle Like I hate cows, but there is something about hearing a moo in the distance on a frosty November morning.
Yeah, well, and I mean,
that's as far as my love for cows goes.
The fact that it is all cattle pasture and that I will have crops and giant food plots is huge. From a pulling them in side,
no doubt.
So I don't know. I mean, at the end of the day, I've got I've got like 10 acres in corn. 10 to 12. And I sprayed it all. So, I mean, there's one part, it's a bigger field. It's probably a 3.5 acre cornfield. And it's kind of this little round top where I was going to put a box blind up on the top. And I mean, I've got corn up there that's, knee high 4th of July. Mm-hmm. That's not, at that time 1st. It was May. Yeah. And it's competing with grasses. So now that I've nuked that stuff out, those resources should all go back to the corn. So it'll be in hindsight, if somebody said, hey, what would you do next year to do it better? It would probably be beneficial to nuke everything that I have and do 1 year, just turn it all over, get softer ground so that I have better penetration with that drill.
Yeah.
I probably would have increased the amount of corn seed I was dropping, even though I went based on what I was supposed to. I probably would have increased it just a little bit to have it a little bit more dense.
I wonder how far back you need to go. Like, what is the perfect approach? Like, if you could start by spraying the year before.
Yeah.
Right. When would that be? Like August.
I think it would be back to that cool season kill, which would be October or something.
Well,
but the pasture grass.
You want to kill the broadleafs too. Mm-hmm. It's not like you're trying to.
The broadleafs aren't as big as a concern to me because that I sprayed that simazine, which is a pre-emergent broadleaf control.
Okay.
They use it in switchgrass a lot, and I don't have hardly any broadleafs coming up.
Okay.
Then maybe it's grass.
Yeah, maybe you would look to spray with Gly like in October.
Yep.
Of the year before, and then spray before you're planting with a pre-emergent.
Yep.
Simazine and Gly as well.
Because the last thing I really want to do is turn it over. Because the moment I turn it over, all of that seed bed now is exposed again to whatever else is going to come up.
But it does seem like there's almost enough benefit to justify doing it the first year, like you said.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, in hindsight, I would have probably done that. Now, on the flip side, and I haven't been there in several weeks, so I don't know what it looks like. My corn in Ohio, which is, effectively that is, crop ground, and at bottom, wasn't doing shit, or they were eating it all. I don't know. I'm not sure what the answer was there. Mm-hmm. But, because I talked to Madison, my timber guy, and he was like, yeah, I didn't really see much corn coming up. So I don't know.
Call yourself a farmer?
Yeah. So I definitely know that they were in it. I also think that I planted that corn a little bit early for probably Ohio, and so the soil temp wasn't high enough yet. So I don't know, again, is it going to germinate when the soil temp got higher? I don't know what it looks like now. It's 2 weeks later. Maybe it's coming up, maybe it's not. But now, I don't mind having to pivot for the food aspect of things. That doesn't if I want to, I'll just put brassicas in or clover or whatever. It's the screening aspect that I was worried about.
Yeah.
So I ordered some plot screen stuff last week, and I'm at the kind of tail end of when you should get full like potential out of it, but I'm going to try to get it out here over the next 10 days.
Me too. I have some at the house.
I'm going to go over some places where there is corn coming up, but I almost can't take the risk. I just need screening there.
Yeah.
So I'm going to just seed it in there, screen it, and, hope for the best, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then see where we're at. I've got beans, like we were talking about earlier. I've got beans coming in in Kentucky. I'll probably do that the moment I see rain in the forecast. I already sprayed. I mean, that stuff was nuked. So it's ready to go.
I mean, that's all we're waiting for is the next rain. It's like,
yeah.
Might as well get stuff in the ground now. Like, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drill those beans, and I'm going to spray gly and put some screen down so that when that rain happens, if it ever happens, we'll get that.
Yes. Yeah. And I think what, and this is kind of the same, because when we did our fertilizer stuff, you fertilized all your bean areas, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm a little short on some of those bean areas. I might have to go back in when I seed and put fertilizer down in there too, because I ran out when I was doing the bean stuff. I covered all my corn, and then I ran out on the bean stuff. But yeah, it's just, these summer plots are finicky. Like I was talking to one of our listeners the other day on I think it was Instagram or something, and they were just talking about establishing these plots. And it's it's no offense to the food plot guys, but like you can establish a brassica plot wherever the hell you want. Like I mean that brassica, maybe it's not going to put on a basketball bulb, but I mean that shit will grow anywhere.
Yeah. Well, I think the seed size has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely.
Because all we're doing with clover and brassicas is broadcasting and spraying, and we're just trusting that small seed will work.
It's going to get sucked into the ground, and you're good.
It's the fact that corn and bean needs to be like whatever it is, 1/2 inch to 1.5 inches.
And I have
under the soil.
I have had, at least in Ohio, the turkeys have mauled my corn. I mean, like 5-6 gobblers working through a field, like ripping the shit out of it,
eating your seed.
Well, I saw a lot of my seedlings coming up that were just like ripped out.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So I don't know if they're like getting down to the root where the seed was or whatever.
Interesting.
And I mean, you think like, oh, it's a 2-3 acre field, like they can't do that much damage. They can. And I mean, it looks like they have.
It is fun. Yeah, that size matters in that case. It's funny, like you think about a 2-3 acre field as a big field because it takes a lot of work to plant.
From a food plot side, it is a big field.
But then when you see 6 does pour out into it, and there's mowing for 2 hours, and you're like, this every night, maybe twice or even twice a day is like, I can see where.
And this is the critical phase, right? For corn, it's really May, and for beans, I think it's June. But that first 30 days that seedling's up out of the ground, that's when deer will hammer it. Like deer won't mess with your corn when it's 1.5 foot tall. It's not real good for them. But in the early grass stage, done, mow it, right? Same with the beans. Like your beans are going to get browsed, but once they kind of get up over that foot, they're going to it'll keep sprouting, new shoots off. But when it's early, I mean, if they mow those things down, they're not getting off the ground.
So you don't think that deer browse pressure is necessarily hurting your corn? Or you do?
In Ohio, I think it did. Maybe not now. Like I don't know what it looks like, but I think it did when it first came up. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm not seeing corn go. I have another theory on that, but I'm not going to throw anybody under the bus until I know for sure. Because I used a different corn seed in Ohio than I did in Kentucky.
I guess the reason I'm asking is, would you consider fencing it? Like, does it seem like that would be worth it?
In Ohio, potentially. Yeah. I just don't know if I want to go to that effort. If anything, it does
seem like a lot of work.
I'd rather just screen it. I mean, the big thing in Ohio was, it would have been great to have corn in those different places. The front field was the main one because I have road frontage, right? Well, now I'm just going to go in and screen the shit out of it, and then I don't, if I put brassicas in between, I'm going to get my box blind there. I don't care, and the road can't see it. That's the key is road can't see it.
Yeah, and you planted some like permanent screen there, right? Like the.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've got switch.
Oh, switch. What was the other stuff?
Which I'm just not.
I'm bunches?
This may like knock everybody off their seat. I'm just not sold on switchgrass.
No, just based on what this year's planting, or
just the thought process around it and like how it's used. And again, even if I'm in your area, right, where I've got major ag country, I could see putting in a 10-acre switch field of like, I'm adding cover, right? Where I'm at, I've got cover everywhere. Like, I don't need it. The switch doesn't give me anything better than what I have.
Well, that's the way to think about it. I mean, if the property has adequate cover and is lacking on food, put food on it, not necessarily cover.
Well, and even switch from screening, I mean, it seems like it's going to take 3+ years for that switch to get up to give me adequate screening.
Yeah, I don't know if anybody's using it for screening though. I
think they are. I think that's one of the main uses for people is to screen.
How tall is it? I don't think
6-7 feet.
It ain't tall enough.
Well, and I say that not to throw a switch under the bus, but
there's better products for a screen. You're better off planting a screening product.
Yeah, like some of this sorghum and stuff that I'm going to be planting in is going to go 8 to 10 feet tall.
I think it's more than that. It's 10 to 12.
Yeah, I mean that's a wall.
It gets tall.
So
I've had really good luck with some of those screens.
Miscanthus is the same way. Although I still think if you have miscanthus, you need a tree planter. Like I did that by hand, and that was a pain in the ass.
Dude, tree planter will change your life.
A tree planter to go through and drop those miscanthus balls would be great.
We planted 2,500 trees one year with a dibble bar. And I was like, that was a lot of work.
Sucks.
And then we went out and did it. I borrowed Jed's tree planter. I was like, this is fun.
Just
sit on the back of the tractor and drop them in.
Boop. Yeah. So I mean, again, it's I'm just trying to find like, not that it's like the poor man's way, but like I don't have these tools to do, right? So it's like, what is the easiest way for me to screen?
You're getting it.
Yeah. What's the easiest way for me to create screening and create food on my property when I have adequate cover? And it seems like, going out there with a $20 bag in a broadcast seeder for this essential, food plot screen, and then doing my normal food plots, and like, I'm good. I have bedding.
Yeah. I mean, that's a interesting conversation. Like, food should be food and cover should be, screen should be screen. Unless you're really confident that specifically corn. I mean, corn I think is the only food plot, food source that you're planting that could potentially act as
a screen.
But you got to be confident that it's going to work out.
Yes.
Because if not, it might be. Well, I don't know that it's too late because you get corn in the ground pretty early, right? Like in May, April, May.
Yeah, I mean, so where I didn't really plant it too heavy on Ohio, but Kentucky, that corn was going to be a major component of my screen access.
Mm-hmm. And it is for a lot of people, like in the Midwest, all this.
Oh, absolutely.
This whole corn edge row conversation that we're talking, like farmer leaving some.
Yep.
The corn is the screening in that.
Yeah, there's food, but it's for the screening.
It's critical.
Yeah, and so, I mean, I have some corn growing up, but my concern is like, I don't want a half-ass screen here. That defeats the purpose, right? So I'm going to go over it, and I'm gonna broadcast this food plot screen right into it, because I don't care about those small screens producing food for deer. I just need screening.
Sure. And you have time to kind of react to that. That's why I was asking about the time frame. Is corn goes
plenty
in,
of time.
Whatever. When did you plant your corn?
End of April.
End of April, and that screen doesn't typically need to go in until right now, where it's May 15th to June 1st, June 15th even.
Yep.
So you have time to see what your germination looks like. Consider chemical treatments before you go in and put a real screen in there. But
yeah, because the nice part is where I have those potential screens, I've got a lot of bare dirt, and so it's the same way. It's like just drill it through there and let it go, be done with it, or broadcast.
All I've done in the past is, and I have turned it over for whether that was required or not, is I would turn the soil over, broadcast, and call to pack it in. And I've had real good luck with those because it grows so fast. It almost seems to outcompete whatever's in there.
Yeah, I mean, and at that point, I don't care if there's some grasses and weeds in there, as long as I got a wall that's protecting me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's the corn aspect's been interesting.
You have a disc.
Yeah.
Good disc.
Yeah, big one.
Yeah, critical.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's I feel pretty good about the way that it lays out. And again, it's first year on this farm, so I don't know. The key is I'm just gonna put as much food on it as possible. Like if the corn shits out, it doesn't matter to me. I'm going to have some beans in the ground. I'm going to have a ton of brassica. I'm going to have a ton of clover. it's not the end of the world. It's just be nice if I had this kind of variety set up. And
dude, I don't know if you ever get it like 100% right. We've had our farm for 7-8 years. We're still very much making adjustments.
It's the time. I just, we talk about this with some other guys. Like I don't have, I wish I did. I don't have 60 days a year to just plant food plots and manage my farm.
It's a lot of work. I mean, think about a majority of our podcast this time of year is just farming. We're trying to figure out how to get the stuff to grow. And so when the time comes, the situations, we're just trying to create as good of an environment to create potential hunting opportunities around and to have a thriving herd, that protects egg structure and promotes, antler growth and all this stuff as possible. That's what this time of year is about.
Yeah. And I mean, it's
making that work like in a way that's advantageous to. That's where it's hard, man. It's because you're trying to do everything at once. Like I want food to grow. I want cover to grow. I want some food that is cover and some food that is bedding, and then I want bedding that is bedding and that's separated from this. And all of us has to work together to get 5 or 6, whoever's hunting this property, and we can only access it from certain directions. And so, like at the end of the day, like you can only expect, I think, so much success.
Yeah.
You got to account for some things not to work out, and so you got to be flexible. Just like during the hunting season, not every plan is going to work, so you got to just kind of roll with it. And it's good to have backup plans. That's where brassicas and oats and things can be a saving grace.
And it will be.
So lots of glyphosate and small seed and mobile tree stands, and you'll be in good shape.
Well, and I think that's it. Especially early in a farm, it's the major disadvantage of being an absentee landowner, right? I mean, like I just said,
it's hard.
It's been 2.5 or 3 weeks since I've seen the Ohio corn. I don't know. I mean, it could look great. It might look like shit. I have no idea.
Me too.
May not even be there.
Me too. Or clovers, but I'm curious. But I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's because I don't know, dude. Like I really as much as like I'm envious of like the Iowa landowners, the guys that own land and hunt in Iowa. I don't want to live there necessarily. I mean, like I really like our life. We got a life built around like our businesses that we run here, and like as much as we might. Talk about how awesome it would be to be out there all the time and stuff. The reason that we love hunting so much and going out of state and stuff is because we don't get to experience that every day.
Oh, I know.
And that's something that I think only, I think that's something that like non-Midwesterners, it's kind of exclusive to us. It's like we get the chance to, if we're lucky enough, if we've, worked hard enough to have the opportunity set up at some point, we get to go to this place where these giant deer live, and hopefully the work that we've done, the time that we've been able to take out from our busy schedules here to do it will pay off. And that's just the different, everybody's got a different situation on that.
Well, and that's where it comes down to when we start, it's June 1, give it, 3-4 more weeks. And we've kind of already talked about it here with Kansas, but it's like, okay, now plan your schedule. Because, I mean, there's only...
We drew Kansas, by the way.
Oh, we drew Kansas. Yeah. We haven't talked about that.
We talked about that.
Hey!
Yeah, we drew Kansas tags.
Yeah.
As did I think about everybody else that we...
There's a lot of people that did. I saw a lot of people draw. I saw a few people that did not. But I saw a lot
Ben
of
draw,
I don't know.
I bet he did. I don't think he drew last year.
Yeah, I don't think he did either.
He had a point.
Yeah. So, yeah, we drew, going back. But, I mean, it comes down to the planning because ultimately... Let's even say you hunt Kentucky like I do. September 2nd, Kentucky season opens, right? Pretty much after, unless I'm in Ohio. I mean, November 25th. Like after November 25th, it's a struggle bus wherever you're at. In most cases, unless you're in the South listening to this. But for us.
As far as rat hunting.
Yeah, as far as just hunting, period.
It's not. I mean, dude, it is. You're
I mean, the major chunk of the season is October 1st to November 25th.
Yeah, unless, that's the time of year some of this stuff we're doing now could really pay off.
Yeah, because you have the food to suck them in.
And it does, man. It's almost just like a guy could honestly, if you had really good, success with planting food and having the right setups, a guy could just wait until December to start hunting every year. And I think your odds of like catching up with the buck that, you're after is pretty good. The downfall, though, is everybody else has first opportunity. They've been pressured at that point. Chances are, depending on where you live, they've been shot already, or you're kind of hunting whatever's left. But the odds of seeing and having an opportunity at whatever's there is pretty dang good over a food source in December and January.
Yeah, and I think that's a hard one for, depending on what state you are, for you to kind of comprehend. So for instance,
look at those muzzleloader tags in Iowa, dude. A lot of guys don't, they can draw those every other year, so they just wait and go hunt a food source. And I mean, the odds of success are pretty good.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Stealth Cam.
Dude, where would we be without our cell cams?
I would definitely be divorced at this point.
Yeah, I hear that.
I mean, the fact is I spent more time checking cameras than I actually did hunting prior to cell cameras. Now, at least, my wife can enjoy me being in the comfort of my own home, buried in my phone, checking those pictures.
Yeah, 100%. And dude, when it comes to trail cameras and definitely cell cameras, reliability is, I think, the number one thing that we're looking for. Stealth Cam just has a long reputation of reliable cameras, and ultimately that is the most important thing to us. They have to work.
In terms of reliability, there's not a better camera on the market than Stealth Cam, whether you're talking about the Fusion X, the Reactor, or the DS4K Transmit. And most of them are under $200.
Stealthcam.com. Check them out.
Well, and so what I was saying there is, like, in Pennsylvania, I mean, the season kind of literally ends. Like, there is no season until after Christmas. But, like, after Christmas, I mean, it's, if there's 700,000 people hunting deer in the state of Pennsylvania, after Christmas, there's 40.
How dumb is that we have intermittent bow season here in PA?
It's the dumbest thing ever.
It makes no sense.
Yeah, it's stupid.
What's the point? Trying to limit harvest? Or is it the same as the Saturday, Sunday hunting thing?
Yeah, I think it's pleasing. I think it's pleasing the people who are, other stakeholders in the state, not our stuff.
Yeah.
Because I mean, every other state, it's clear through. Like, starts here, ends here, weapons change, seasons change, but I mean, you can hunt every day.
That's so nice in Ohio, man. Not to even. That's funny. I'll like text people. I'll text you. I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'm running out for today and tomorrow." And you're like, "Well,
if I go to Ohio or go to Kentucky,
I know." But here, you're like, "I won't be." And I'm like, "Oh, I forgot." I didn't think about
Sunday.
That.
Yeah, I mean, I grew up that way. Yeah, it's such a weird thing when you think about it, because again, you talk about October here in Pennsylvania. It's usually first part of October till I think now it's November 18th or 19th is the season end. But that's it. I mean, you have gun season after, and then you've got a lag until after Christmas. But I mean, it's October 1st to November 18th. If you're a bow hunter in Pennsylvania, I mean, 99% of the bow deer in Pennsylvania are probably killed during that time frame.
Yeah.
1% after Christmas.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I think the season dates actually fall late this year.
Do they?
I know, because Ohio is almost always, if not always, a week before Pennsylvania, and Ohio is September 30th this year.
Yeah, so that means PA's probably October 4th or 5th. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Kentucky's early. It's September 2nd.
Nice.
Yep. So, yeah, I mean, it's just hard. And there's a reason for that, right? I was talking to, when I was showing the Powell property the other day, the guy I was showing it to, we were just talking about other states hunting and stuff. And I said, well, for me, I kind of look at bow hunting as, as much the quality of deer, but it aligns very much with the pressure that exists in that state, right? So in Pennsylvania, there's 330,000 plus bow hunters. That's all archery, crossbows, longbows, compounds, whatever. It's the most archery hunters in the country, 330,000 in the state.
Is it really?
Yep.
It's the most, more than like Minnesota,
correct,
and Michigan,
yep.
And
Ohio, I think, was don't quote me on it, 189 maybe. So almost.
Really? Pennsylvania has the highest number of archery hunters.
Yep. 330,000 plus.
That's resident tag, or that's
all
people that bought an archery tag in Pennsylvania?
Correct. Yep.
No way.
Yeah. Think about that.
Where do those other ones sit? Like Minnesota and the other real high ones?
I don't know, but I bet that they have stricter crossbow policies. I'm not picking on crossbows there, but I bet that's why.
Well, that would account for a major portion of our numbers, I'm sure.
Yeah, we're wide open.
But I think you can
hunt
hunt with crossbows in some of those states. Wisconsin, I know you can for sure, or Michigan.
Yes, according to this was in 2021, so I don't know about last year. There were 3.7 million licensed bow hunters
in the country.
PA was number 1, 331,000. Wisconsin was 2, 307. Michigan, 304. And then it's a pretty big drop. I think New York, 244. Missouri, 202. Minnesota is at like 104. So, anyways,
That's really interesting.
So I say that because of the pressure, right? So
I think Michigan and Wisconsin are both crossbow states as well.
Yeah,
that
which makes
probably
sense.
that
300,000 people compared to like the next closest state, which is New York at 244.
And I think New York's crossbows as well, right?
So then the next closest state is like 115.
Well, and that'll do it. I mean, the minute you qualify crossbows as archery, that number's gonna
Even Texas is 168.
double. Wow.
I mean, Pennsylvania is twice as many bow hunters than Texas.
That's nuts.
That's crazy.
I don't know what the crossbow deal is in Texas.
I'm sure they can use it. They pretty much shoot them at night if they want to.
Yeah.
So,
That's wild.
why I say that is you think about pressure in the states and the quality, okay? Illinois is at 173, right? And I think a lot of people would say, well, Illinois got a pretty good deer herd, right? There'll be a lot of people from Illinois that'll say it ain't like it used to be, right? And I think that there's more crossbows oriented into that state recently too. But I think you also can take two deer.
2 deer.
Yeah, out of that state. So, I mean, 173, there's a lot of pressure there. I would say that, Illinois would be poised to continue to not go up in quality because of that many hunters.
Generally speaking, it's I don't know. It's not apples to apples.
Sure.
Illinois is a big state. So
Iowa's 57,000.
So even if you were to take the same number, what's Illinois? Almost double the size of Pennsylvania in terms of like acreage?
No, I bet Pennsylvania is bigger than Illinois.
Really?
Yeah, 100%.
Can we find that out?
Or about the same.
Curious.
Not gonna lose this. Just a few other numbers while we're thinking about it. Iowa 57,000 makes sense. That's just residents, right? There's
not that many people there,
right. Kansas 58,000.
Wait. These numbers are just residents or all
bow hunters.
Okay, so that Illinois number includes non-resident tags.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Illinois compared to what?
Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
Kansas is 58,000. Here was the state that I'm excited about. Kentucky 62,000. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
So Iowa's 57,000. Kentucky, which is open, 62,000.
Mm-hmm.
I think
nobody wants to hunt that shit. That's why.
I think that's where you're going to start seeing some more giants coming out of.
You know what though? Like
Ohio's 172 by the way.
There's another
half the bow hunters in Ohio than are in Pennsylvania.
There's another factor that has a significant impact on that, which is habitat.
Yeah,
per
deer habitat.
If I look at which is not helping this case that we're talking about in Pennsylvania, but if I look at Illinois.
Besides Chicago and Springfield and stuff,
all of
habitat.
It's deer habitat. I mean,
what's the size, Nick?
So it says it's about 1.2 times bigger than Pennsylvania, 24% larger, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's square kilometers. Is that how they measure it?
Yeah, that sounds right.
Okay, so 116,000 for PA, 143,000.
It's 20% bigger.
20% bigger.
Yeah, so
a little bit bigger.
And less than half the number of hunters.
Bow hunters. Mm-hmm.
Bow hunters, and way more habitat.
Way more habitat.
So I don't know that we can say that it's not.
I don't think it's going to be as sufferable as Pennsylvania.
Parcel size, I think, is a big one too.
I just think, and again, it's other policies involved. But look at even Kentucky, which is open. It's a third of the bow hunters in Kentucky than in Illinois.
I think there's way less deer habitat in Kentucky than there is in Illinois. There's parts of the state that are more or even better.
Sure.
But generally speaking, it's big timber ridges.
In the east, at least. Mm-hmm. Yeah, versus farm ground.
There's a lot of factors to it. But
it is.
That is interesting, though. To know that Pennsylvania is number one of bow hunters. That's wild.
Opportunity.
Whoop, whoop. Number one, baby.
That's
we win.
Yeah, and I mean there's some other ones that I would say are like
first last.
Some like Arkansas is 128. Trying to see any more like major whitetail.
Arkansas is directly south of Missouri, isn't it?
Yeah. Mississippi's 78. Nebraska's 32.
Isn't it weird how those states almost don't exist to us?
Yeah.
No offense. I know.
I know
those people are down there. It's like it just doesn't.
West Virginia's 96,000.
As far as deer hunting goes, I mean.
But I mean, it's Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, all over 300,000 bow hunters. It's a lot of people in those states hunting.
It's kind of crazy that West Virginia is that much less than PA, considering it's
96,000.
right below it.
Yeah, smaller state.
It's like Kentucky, in habitat-wise.
Smaller state, at least the eastern part. Yeah, it just yeah. I mean, it's but I mean, to that point, I can't believe that there's 30,000 more bow hunters in West Virginia than there are in Kentucky. Like, that doesn't make sense to me. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, or let's say Kansas. Like, we talk about rural besides Kansas City and Topeka and some of these places, Wichita. Like, Kansas is a remote state, right? Kansas basically has the same amount of bow hunters as Kentucky, plus or minus 3,000.
That makes sense to me, though. I mean, it's just giant tracts out there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, less people per acre.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I just would think that Kentucky had more people on it. But Pennsylvania being 330 is...
Well, it's also way bigger. Kansas is way bigger than Kentucky.
Yeah, 330 in Pennsylvania, 300s in Wisconsin and Michigan. I mean, that you can understand why these are where kind of the heart of deer hunting is, and also where probably the heart of frustration in deer hunting is.
It would be interesting. I mean, I don't know what the real value is, but it would be interesting to see all of these variables accounted for and to see like apples to apples across the board. You know, what's the number of hunters per acre, all this information I'm sure exists out there somewhere, but just to take the size of the state into account.
Yeah, because like Texas is a giant state.
But it blows my mind that we have more bow hunters per
double.
Because how many more people are in Texas than in Pennsylvania?
A lot,
substantially. So significantly less of their population hunts than ours. Is what that tells me.
You should make it into an app.
Well,
Hunter app.
Yeah, I think the big thing in Texas is I don't know what it is. I think 98% of Texas is private. There is like no public land in Texas basically to hunt.
Yeah.
And so I think that's a huge contributor of why there's less people bow hunting.
What percentage of Pennsylvania hunters do you think are hunting PA public land?
40%, 30%.
30-40%, yeah.
I would think so. Maybe it's less than that. I mean, because I think we're probably 70% private or so, probably. But yeah, I mean, I would assume, 30% are hunting public. People will argue and say, well, I used to hunt a lot of private. Well, you also hunted a lot of public, and it was
less now hunting public or less now hunting private?
I think less now hunting private because of loss of access.
Probably true. Man, that's I don't know. I wonder if that's nationwide. But that's what all those, I call them old timers, but just our dad and uncles types age. All of them talk about. Used to be no posted signs.
You just went.
You would just hunt. And you would talk. You would know, but yeah, there was no such. You could just cross the property line, and you'd hunt wherever the.
But there was a weird respect back then. Like I know my dad.
It's just respect. There was respect back then.
But yeah, maybe that's why. Like I know my dad will talk about it. Like there was, 3 or 4 groups of guys who were bow hunters.
Well, the industry is largely responsible for that too. It's the privatization of wildlife. Like, people want to claim, ownership of, that's my deer, that's my, and so they start to
look at the things that are out there. I mean, you hear rumors of like celebrities tying toilet paper to like fences so that it spooks the deer and they don't cross. And it's like, what the hell?
Can we find out the number of PA bow hunters like 20 years ago?
Yeah,
I think it's increased.
It has to have.
I think it doubled.
Well, and there's the crossbow number that at some point got added in.
It doubled.
But without that,
I don't know if you'll be able to tease it. I think it doubled.
I guess I don't know why you would tease it. It is.
I think it was 150,000 and now it's 330,000.
Yeah, well, that'll do it. That'll do it. You put double the amount of bow hunters onto the same amount of property, paired with everything that's come along with a hunting industry of privatization of. I don't know if that's the term.
Loss of access, privatization of perceived wildlife, basically, of like, this is my spot. I lease this. I mean, dude, leases didn't exist in this state 20 years ago. The first time I heard about a lease.
Exist now. There's no ground in PA worth leasing, dude.
The first time I heard about a lease, I was in Mississippi, and they're like, oh, yeah, we lease this property. I was like, what do you mean? They're like,
what is lease?
They're like, oh, like we pay, and we're the only ones that hunt it. And I'm like, you can do that? Like, I remember leaving there, and I'm like, holy shit, I'm going to go lease a bunch of ground in Pennsylvania.
You can do that?
And I was like,
here's 15 years ago.
Okay.
277,000, and then 2019 is 325.
Wait, say that
so
again?
15 years ago, Okay, 277, and then 3. So it went up 50,000, then jumped another. So it's up 50 or 60,000 with crossbows. With the and I mean that's not because I mean Brian told us Burhan said what 50-50 in terms of compound and crossbow users now,
which sounds right.
So yeah, I mean, I think that the part of it is we're gonna have guests lined up here over the next few weeks to kind of talk about, but I'm really intrigued in, it's not something that I want to do all the time, right? But I think I get pretty intrigued with these guys who are hunting public land and pursuing mature bucks, because I mean, maybe it's not the biggest antler scored deer, but I mean, if you're killing mature bucks consistently on public lands, there's something to be said about that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think it's super hard to do consistently. I also would be curious to know how many of those people are still having good experiences, because that's the trade-off, right? It's like, I love the challenge of what that might be to kill a big mature buck on public land. What I don't want is 3/4 of my season to be bad because I'm running into guys or guys are walking in on me. Like, you know what I mean? That like the whole point of deer hunting in that season is to like have this ultimate like freedom of release and like be in your space and your passion and stuff. And then all of a sudden, if 3/4 of your season is fighting other people to get away from them or get a spot to where you try to achieve a goal, where's the trade-off there that makes it worth it?
It is interesting. It's kind of like a oxymoron in Pennsylvania, because it's like, obviously there's more hunters. Well, bow hunters.
More bow hunters.
Maybe less
over hunters, more bow hunters.
Overall. And I think most people would say the opportunity to shoot an older buck has increased.
Yep.
And it's the tough one to put a thumb down on, because it's like you'd think, less pressure, less harvest. I guess there is less harvest overall, right?
Yeah. Yes, there is.
And that, I assume, has to do mainly with, rifle season.
Yep.
Rifle season.
Yep. And tag allocations and stuff, but yeah.
Tag allocations. So I guess you could look at it and say, guys were really efficiently killing a lot of deer with rifles back in the day. And now we have more bow hunters, less hunters overall, better potential for deer. But the problem is
less access.
Yeah, less access for sure, and more guys in the woods. I don't know. It's weird because the rifle season was condensed too.
Yep.
But I guess you were just used to seeing
10 or 11 days.
Well, and that maybe it was the mentalities, because you're like, we've talked to people that were like, well, if the guys aren't out there pushing them around, you ain't gonna see deer.
I mean, that's how I grew up. Is opening day of rifle season, 7:30. My dad would be like, ready to drive, and it was just because like if people weren't moving deer, you got out and moved deer, and I mean that's just how it was. And you saw major fall-offs, right? I mean...
Well, dude, and maybe that mindset has changed over time, too, because at one time, people might not have cared at all that there was people everywhere. They're like, this is deer season. That's what we do. And now, and that came along with, I think, that privatization of or wanting to manage deer, that mindset changed where it's like, I don't want to see people.
Right.
Not that... I don't know. Yeah, maybe
it's a weird thing now. True. Yeah, because I mean,
that's a very Pennsylvania thing.
I used to want to see people get up and move because I'm like, they're gonna move deer. Now, if I run into people, I'm like, fuck.
Yeah, it's shot.
Yeah, it's shot. Yeah, and it's
they're totally different. They're totally different. I mean, same, but very different. Because it's like you and I think want to experience like an uninhibited. I
want to play chess match with a deer.
With the deer.
Yeah, where it's me versus him. Yeah, there's always going to be external factors, but I don't necessarily want one of those factors to be some dude came walking in, kicked him out of his bed, he ran right to my tree, and I shot him.
It feels way more like intimate of an experience, in that it's not, I don't know. There's something to just like, to experiencing nature and wildlife the way that it wants to exist. I mean, dude, I think that even all the time, like driving around looking at, highways and cities, and like people do a lot of cool stuff, but like, man, wasn't it better before all this stuff was here? Like,
well, it's interesting because like I grew up hunting a lot of like the suburbs of Pittsburgh, and I would eyeball a 5-acre piece of woods next to houses, and I'm like, I can kill a buck in there.
Mm-hmm.
And I probably did, right? But the experience wasn't near what I look for now in a hunt, right? Like I literally would say, my strategy was, how do I slip into that 5 acres and kill this buck without the buck seeing me and without the people seeing me in the houses?
Yeah, and anymore you're trying to find pockets of deer that are uninfluenced by development, by hunting pressure. You want to find them in their natural habitat. It's getting tougher and tougher to find.
Absolutely. And so that's where it's kind of weird.
That's the quality of the experience that you're talking about.
Yeah, and so that's where it's like, on a public side, like I mean, when some of these guys are killing mature bucks on public land, like I was watching some of Jake Bush's stuff here not too long ago. He's doing just some scouting stuff on, I think it's like Latitude Outdoors or whatever, but it's really cool. That said, like if 3/4 of my season is not as much hunting the deer as it is getting away from people, right, and repositioning myself, like I don't know if that's the experience I want.
I know. It's definitely admirable. I mean, those are your high pressure guys that are.
And maybe they don't have a choice, so I get that. Like,
yeah, it is what it is. You make do with what you can.
It's a weird feeling to say, I guess I'm sympathizing with a lot of these public land guys who constantly are having to probably outmaneuver people more than they are the deer in their hunts in today. I mean, like
that is the game.
When we look at Illinois or even Kansas, I mean, the deer are irrelevant. It's like, okay, number one, we got to outmaneuver these people, and then we'll figure out what deer are in the area to even potentially hunt.
And that's the strategy, because that's the same thing the deer are doing, is where aren't the people? So if you can.
But that's not fun. Like it doesn't give you the freedom to be able to look at a map, which is what.
Well, it's different.
What I get excited about is like if I look at a map and I'm like, okay, here's a bedding knob and here's my access. Well, if I pull in and there's 2 trucks there,
it muddies
shit.
It muddies a lot. Yeah.
It's gone. So it's just it's a weird way to be able to go at it, and I get it. It's part of the challenge of public land. It's just kind of going back to those older days. Like there are these pockets of hunters, which maybe there were no posted signs and property lines, but these guys knew that these guys hunted over there and they didn't go over there. That's where these guys hunted. We hunted here. They hunted there.
Yeah, everybody had their routes.
Now it's just like just wherever.
Yeah, it's a very different time.
Yeah, and it's just I feel like it's just so much pressure put on, like just killing it. Just killing the deer, like getting out there and killing deer.
What do you attribute that, that phenomenon to? I mean, I know there's a lot of factors we talked about there. Like, why do you think that there's better deer in Pennsylvania now than there were 20 years ago?
I think part of it's the education. People aren't shooting the first deer, but I think number one is there's less hunters to take less 1-year-olds.
Less hunters.
That's it. I mean, most of the deer now, because of antler restrictions, getting to 2 and/or 3.
Certainly a value put on age class and antler size by the industry, I think, has driven some of that too.
Yeah, and a restriction of access. What was a lot of wide open hunting is now very privatized to where people are going to say, well, yeah, I have 1,000 acres. You can't hunt it, and I'm not going to shoot 3-year-olds.
I don't know if that's as big of a factor in Pennsylvania. I think in some other states, yeah, maybe.
I don't know, man. There's a lot of lost ground in Pennsylvania that used to be people could go and hunt and shoot the first buck they saw.
It's still getting hunted.
Yeah, but I don't think I think people are a little bit more mindful of what they're shooting.
Maybe.
And there's less people hunting.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's a hard one to put a thumb down on.
I do think that bow hunters in general, and it's not a knock to people that just I think bow hunters in general are more thought process oriented around what they want to shoot.
Yeah.
Even if you're a public land guy and you only have public land, you go into the season kind of have an idea of what you want to kill. Maybe you just want to kill the first legal buck, and that's fine. But I think a lot of people go into it, whether it's history with the deer or new spot or daydreaming of a big buck.
The bar in I don't think you're wrong. I do think that maybe bow hunters have a bit more of a goal. Maybe there's more of a goal, but in terms of like a certain age class or antler size of deer, the bar is still very low.
Yeah.
Very low. I would be surprised if there's more than 5. Let me pull a number out of my butt here. I'd be surprised if there's more than 10% of bow hunters in Pennsylvania that would pass I'm going to say a 2-year-old, like
I would agree.
125 inch, 120 inch.
Yeah, there's not many 120 inch 2-year-olds in PA, but yes.
120 inch 10 point. There's my specific scenario. No. I think less than 10% of PA bow hunters would pass a 125 inch 2-year-old.
I agree. 100%. Yeah, you're right.
You know, and that's, I don't know, dude. It's weird. I'm telling you, like
I think Michigan would be the same. I think Wisconsin would be the same. It's
I mean, that's a book buck, right? Or is it 130?
125.
125.
Where these deep rooted traditions are, I think it would be the same. I think, you know, and we kind of commented about how we like the YouTube aspect of things in terms of these like kind of just, you know, nobody type hunts. I don't know what it is, man. There's the pressure to say, look at me in today's society is disgusting.
In what do you mean?
Just like, you know, you have to kill a buck. Like it used to be, like I knew guys growing up that if they could have shot 30 bucks in their life, the moment the first 3-point stepped in front of them, they were killing it just to say, hey, killed a buck this year. That was the only thing they cared about is that they could say it.
I think that's gotten worse. I think
you don't think it's gotten worse?
I think it's gotten better, if anything.
I don't know.
I think,
I mean, how many times do you see something on social? It's like, yep, killed this 5-year-old. And you're like,
well,
no.
There is a misjudgment of age for sure.
I think it's a flat out lie.
I don't think it's a that's a complex one. I think guys our dad's age, that was where notoriety came from. That was
because keep in mind those are the guys who are not like out there. I mean, like your dad shared a picture of the buck he killed this year, but those guys aren't out there like trying to be something in the hunting space.
Not in the hunting space, but in their own circles.
Yeah, dude, in their own circles.
My dad at churches, that phone's out every chance he
Yeah,
gets.
for sure. But in the wide open space of social media, which is the worldwide space, right? They're not trying to be something in that.
Those guys don't feel pressure from that either, though. Like in the same line.
I know.
So what I'm saying is, I think in their you know, when they were in their 20s and 30s, that was the thing. If you could kill a buck consistently, that was really admirable. I think more so than killing one big deer, one big one. Now I think it's more, you know, I don't know, fueled by wanting to shoot a certain size of deer, you know, and kind of stretching the limits to get there, I guess. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I just think it's, you know, those guys transparently are getting older, and our group is coming up, and this is kind of not all we know, right? Like I think I was the last generation that, like I was a freshman in college when Facebook came out. But this is kind of how we've started to say, you know, hey, look at versus those guys in their own little circles at church or whatever. We're like, yeah, you know, Dwayne killed a big one, just see it in his truck. It doesn't exist like that
It's
anymore.
interesting. Facebook for me almost has become, like, because I don't really post on any social media platforms. But I will post a picture of my deer when, you know, that's about it. Because I'm like, I know there's guys out there that would be interested in seeing that. I already think so anyways.
Yeah, it's a weird thing because I don't think that
that's about it. It's like Facebook exists for me to show people what I shot.
Like I have a huge family, and so like if the kids and I are out fishing or the kids shoot something, like I post it on there just because I'm not going to text 21 first cousins like, hey, look, and I know that they all care because we're all hunters, like we're all we grew up that way, so like I feel like social's good for that, you know, and of course like sharing things like that, but it's also it's a weird setting to where like. And everybody listening to this can tell. There are certain people out there posting just for attention. Like that's the only reason for their existence on social media, whether it's TikTok or Instagram or Facebook. I mean, it's like literally, you know, at first I'm kind of like, I don't get it. And then at some point it's like, does somebody not love you? Like you are just dying for attention. You know, I feel bad for them most of the time, but you're just out there like craving attention. And it's like, you know, that didn't exist 15 years ago. Yeah. Right? I mean, you had a circle, you had friends, like you didn't have to do that.
The thing is, dude, people just didn't know. Like,
yeah, they didn't.
That's what you talked about at Thanksgiving dinner.
Well, and again, it goes back to the forced conversation.
And there was there's a lot to say for that. You know,
this society communicates worse than any society in freaking history. Cavemen, were able to communicate better than us.
Yeah.
We don't communicate worth shit. I mean, Nick and I were just talking, like Carter goes into middle school next year and it's like, now he's got to have a phone and this stuff. Like, I've fucking never talked to that kid. He'll be texting me from the dinner table, and it's like, it's such a conversation was already kind of on the ropes when we were growing
at the dinner
up.
Table?
Oh, no, he doesn't have a phone.
Next that.
He doesn't have a phone.
Yeah. Guess lay the law down on that now.
Dad's on the phone on the dinner table
Yeah.
till I get the eye. Then I'm like,
you got to work on that too.
Yeah, slide that out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's a weird thing because that's all these kids know.
Dude, let's talk about this I told you, did I tell you I got rid of Instagram on my phone?
You did.
Oh, best thing I've ever done.
Yeah.
Dude, I don't know what it is. Like, I can just be honest with myself. It's like, I don't know if I have an addiction, but I certainly have a leniency towards entertainment.
You just get caught on it.
Yeah. It's the same as TikTok was the worst.
Mm-hmm.
TikTok was like
scroll.
It's so easy to just because the alternative is
you get the screen reports every week.
I've never looked at. I don't know.
Yeah, I started looking at them just out of curiosity.
Well, and I don't think I'm on my phone any less. I'm just
doing
more
other
productive things with it. It's interesting because the alternative to entertainment is either boredom or it's work. It's making your mind work. And so it's the easiest one to fall into is if I just pull it up. You try to set rules for yourself. You're like, I don't want to be a victim of this, so I'm just only when I'm on the toilet or only when I'm,
where's your boundaries?
Yeah, and I'll say, okay, while I'm in a car, I'm not going to look at. But then over time, you find yourself breaking those rules constantly. And I don't know, dude. There was a time I was probably on TikTok for, if you added it up throughout the day, honestly, it must have been 2 hours.
Was it?
Had to have been. And I'm doing other stuff in the meantime. And dude, maybe that sounds bad, but I know for a fact there's people that are looking at TikTok for 6 or 8 hours a day.
Well, dude, I mean,
legitimately, like, because you can do it nonstop, like while you're driving, while you're, you can do it nonstop. And so I just recognized that in myself. I was like, dude, I just have a habit of like looking at this stuff. And I was, I would, not that I was like ignoring phone calls, but dude, it's an addiction of sorts. It's the same way you'd think about like, well, I would miss this or I wouldn't answer that call because I was doing this. And so I recognized that and I was like, I'm done with this.
Yeah, nix it.
I'm done with this, and so I got rid of that and I went right back to Instagram. So I just defaulted to the next level down. And I'm like, well, this is better. Like, it's not as
sure.
I can, but still I would catch same amount of time, just, and it was just, so and they do this on purpose. Like I was like, I don't want to get rid of Instagram because of the messages.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. Like, we would communicate with people on our guests, so I have that set up now, so I still get the messages. Like when people message our Instagram and stuff, I see that and I can go on and respond to it. But I haven't scrolled through Instagram, I think, for 3 weeks?
3 weeks, probably.
Best thing I've ever done.
It's crazy, man. I mean,
I'm so productive on my phone now.
Well, and that's so. Let's take that for an
I encourage
example,
that for both you guys, for anything, anybody that's listening,
for your productivity. And it's obviously blessing and a curse, right? Think about how much stuff you can do on your phone on the go. We were just talking about it this morning, right? But think about how much simpler life was before that phone, before these smartphones. Like, dude, I had a flip phone in college, right? I could barely send a fucking text out versus anything. I didn't do shit on my phone. There was no work on my phone. Like, if I had to go back and work, I had to go back to my dorm room or the library or whatever. Yeah. So, yes, it's enabled. Like, I love the flexibility of even being in a tree stand and talking to a client or whatever it might be. But also, like, there's a level of this thing per even the dinner table. This thing is sitting there 24/7, like just waiting for me to do some work on it. There's an unhealthiness about that.
Yeah. Well, that's like the question is, they undoubtedly make you more productive, and I think that's a huge advantage. The question though is at what point does productivity cost other aspects of life?
Yeah, there's some sort of self-restriction aspect, and I've been trying to and I'm probably think about it more than I actually do it, but it's like, where could I draw my lines that I could still be productive with my phone, doing whatever I need to do. But at certain points, like I don't, because if I leave my phone in my truck or here at the office, I have anxiety when I get home. I'm like, fuck, like where's my phone? Forgot my phone.
Well, it's like things are happening. Well, and there's
it's like
because you set a precedence.
Not healthy.
Because you set a precedence by answers, as do I.
Yeah.
People expect, well, Jared always responds within however, and if I don't, it's like people are like, where you been? What's wrong? What's going on?
Well, it's so crazy. It's an insecurity. I mean, dude, growing up, I didn't have a phone. Like, I'd be gone, like, until I got to a freaking wall phone. Like, I didn't call anybody.
Yeah.
And so it's like, how in, 20 years, let's say? Yeah. So I graduated high school 20 years ago. How in 20 years have we become so insecure that, like, we leave our phone somewhere and we're like, we can't function. Like, something's wrong.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's
by design.
I don't think it's an insecurity as much as it is just like it's a tool that's integrated in every portion of our life via communication.
Nuts.
And we need it. We do need it.
It's crazy to
I
think
was
that.
talking about that the other day. Like, everything's an app. To pay your bills, you do it on your phone.
And that's great. All that stuff is
all of your communication
good.
Is here.
Yeah.
All that stuff is good. And when I say we need it, we need it to maintain a level of productivity and like a lifestyle. I guess is not maybe the word, but like we use it for so many things, like good things. But I don't know. The Instagram specifically is what I was talking, and it's worse than that in the form of TikTok. And like I'm just grateful that people watch our stuff, and like I do think it's fun. It's
a cool way to get content.
It absolutely is, but you just have to just be honest with yourself.
Moderate.
Be honest with yourself about how. I have an addictive personality. It's what drives me to start businesses, to want to be the best, to want to bodybuild, to bow hunt these mature bucks. It's a cool quality, but it's
also unhealthy.
You can get addictive to bad things too.
Yeah, I think that's the big thing is like how do you find ways to utilize the tools at hand but not abuse the tool at hand?
Mm-hmm.
Like time goes fast. Especially in today's society. Like used to be, there was only so much shit you could get done in a day because you could only be in one place. You could only mail this letter and wait for a response. That's just how it was. Obviously, when I was in, high school and college, I'd email too. But like there's only so much shit that you could do. Now, things that were an hour to an hour and a half take 30 seconds to do. And so you're moving at such a fast speed. I don't know if most people's brains can handle how fast they're moving. And I think probably poor decisions are made, not like life-threatening necessarily, but I think poor decisions are made in exchange from that because there's also, like, to the point of productivity, like, there's only so much productive stuff you can do during the day before 5 o'clock comes and you're like, damn, dude, I am exhausted, like mentally exhausted because your brain can only handle so much stuff throughout the day. And so it's weird when you come into this mindset of how fast things are being accomplished today versus 15, 20 years ago took literally 50, 60 times as long to accomplish. And a lot of people will say, well, that's efficiency, but also there's a kind of a weird danger behind it.
Where does it lead? I don't think it's so much about like the personal exhaustion as it is the resource, like the world that we live in. Like
I think it's the relationship side and the communication side. If you can accomplish certain things in like emails, let's say I've got 5 people interested in a property. I can sit there for 2 minutes and write 5 emails to 5 different people to get that out versus having 5 like actual communication type things, shaking the hand, let me tell you about this property.
Oh yeah.
And again, it's speed of accomplishment versus the personal relationship and social interaction, which is dead. I mean, social interaction today, people would say, well, yeah, I talk to people all the time on TikTok. No, dude, that's not social interaction.
Well, I guess what I mean, though, is like it seems like you get so efficient at some point that the process is almost just like barely happen. Like in a sense that like, so in selling real estate, it's like, yeah, you can have, so right now we've evolved to the point where I can send those emails every couple minutes and whatever. Like, does that get to a point where the people who have really adopted these technologies of like you're saying email, maybe someday it's neuro, whatever, the highest evolution of that, it's like these things just happen. They just happen. And it's like, I don't know. Dude, an example of
well, look at AI. I mean,
look at AI. Look at in a hunting scenario. You've got things that have like increased the rate of those processes so dramatically that it's created an issue for everybody in terms of the resource availability. Look at, an Onyx or a Hunt Stand or a Spartan Forge. Those tools, along with everything else, have taken a property or
Yeah, because I never went to the courthouse and pulled plat maps and stuff growing up. I never looked at any of that.
Yeah, well, and back in the day, that's what you had to do, and it took a lot of time.
But so people didn't do it.
But
like
the resource could really sustain it. It was like, okay, these guys can only be so efficient. You reach a level of efficiency where it's like, we can hunt every acre that's ever existed from a map, and
we just drive around and there's public, there's public, there's public, there's public. That's walk-in.
Yeah, and we suffer from that in that regard. Like, that experience is dwindling, and I wonder how that applies to just everything else. Hunting's just one example of that.
The HUNTR Podcast is brought to you by Hoyt Archery.
Dude, where would we be without our Hoyt bows?
Probably shooting crossbows.
or a Matthews, yeah.
One and the same.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, we love being Hoyt guys because you stand out. When you're in this room full of other people that shoot these other types of bows, I feel like the Hoyt guys just stick out.
Dude, it's just a legit bow. I mean, especially that carbon riser, man. I mean, I know that they've got several other aluminum lines as well, but for me, I'm shooting that RX5 in the carbon model. They've since come out with the RX7, and I can't tell you how much I love being a Hoyt guy amongst a sea full of Matthews guys. So we're out there, I think, proving them wrong, shooting 80 pounds and killing stuff.
Hey, man, if you want to get serious, get Hoyt.
So per our conversation with Troy and Daryl last week, I went home. 'Cause I was like, man, I don't not know my arrows weigh. I was close. It was 475 is where I'm at, all in.
Mm-hmm.
So tip to knock. I got 100 paint or 100 pound, 100 grain broadhead on there.
Yep.
I've been shooting the Rage tri-pans. We both have
100 grain.
I've got that Ethics outsert. I think it's like a 40 grain sleeve with like a whatever 60 grain inside. And I've got the Victory VAP 250s. 250's fine. So stiff, light, micro diameter, and blazer vanes. And I do, when I hunt, I've got the nocturnals in there. F-Nox. 470 grains total. And so because we've been talking about that, we were talking about the FOC and like that field point. And I'm not, I still, even per our conversation, like, yes, there's a time and place for a fixed blade broadhead. 80 pounds with that arrow set up, hunting whitetail deer, I don't think is it. So
no,
I picked up 6 of those Sever. 100. They make 125.
Is that still rubber band?
It's a rubber band. It's a rubber band.
That's the only downfall there.
Why don't you like that?
I just have had bad issues with those in the past, like break-in or cutting or. Yeah. Everybody's got different. I like that Rage collar, even, when it was the actual collar that would fall apart when you got any pressure on it. I felt like that was better than a rubber band. Seems like they should be able to advance that one pretty easily.
It's a different.
I guess it's probably Rage patents is what it is.
Yeah, I don't know. I can see that. That could be a potential weakness of this broadhead. I suppose
because it folds up like a Rage, right?
Yep. Looks a lot.
Rear
like
deploys.
It. So here's some things that I like. I guess let me finish on the arrow first, and I'll finish on the broadhead. So I saw the opportunity, and I was like, why not shoot 125 grain? That's one of the broadhead.
It's just extra weight up front.
His Rage does make 125 grain.
Correct.
Tri-pan. So I want that. So that got me to 500 grain total arrow weight, 80 pounds.
Yeah, I mean that's probably significant FOC too. Like
huge.
17, 18% maybe.
Yeah, it's big. So that's one. Sever makes a 125, Rage doesn't. It's very similar. They're both rear deploying style broadheads, so they both open like this.
Which is huge. In a broadhead, in an expandable at least.
One issue that
versus over the top, which loses a ton of momentum.
And it has a deflection component to it. One issue that I've had with Rages is, at least it seems like I've had some blades close back up. Not both. Typically, usually it's one or the other.
It gets offset and cocked in there. Yeah.
And I think I've killed almost every deer that I've shot them with. So it's not like they're a bad broad. I shot them for years. And I may, who knows? I may shoot them in the future. What I really like about these severs is that they're both, I don't know if they're both titanium, but they both are a very solid ferrule. There's not a lot of risk of bending those over. The severs come out and they lock. They can't go back in. Not only do they lock, they pivot. So if I hit a rib or a bone that's on one side or the other, it allows the blades to kind of go around it.
Is that locking mechanism create a barb aspect, though, that's illegal in a lot of states?
What do you mean, a barb?
So, like, if you...
No, they come out like this. So they come out like this, and once they pass a point, they lock in like this.
Yeah, but I think that's the barb aspect. That's why, like, you're able to, like, fold a lot of...
Rages don't go up either.
Yeah, they do. They'll fold up. Not the whole way, but it won't create a barb to where it can't come out type of thing. I would assume not. I mean, why would they make them if that's?
I don't know.
There's certain. I don't know if it's every state. Or certain states you can't use a barbed. So remember,
what is a barb?
So remember, like the old ram cats that would have the screw.
Yeah.
So when you tighten that down, you had a fixed blade. But when it hit and it got loose, those blades would flop up so that it wasn't like barbed in there. It was able to pull out basically.
I don't know how that works with the severs. I have to. I've not tried to like push them from the back. I'm not sure how that works.
Yeah, I don't know either. And I don't know if it's every state. I just know I remember one of those states. It was.
But I think on even the Rages once they're deployed, what happened? I don't know. I have to mess with them.
Yeah, but I think it did. It does. It's not like a complete fold up, but it does in some states.
I know what you mean. Yeah.
Yeah. So see, and then this is using fixed, but see, flat, flat, flat. That's barbed. Okay. So, because it can't.
Yeah, I see.
Can't pivot forward. Rages, I think, do.
Yeah, they do.
At least according to this, and I don't know how that did one search. Kentucky, Illinois, Minnesota, New York, North Dakota, South Dakota.
These are states it's illegal in? Which ones?
Kentucky, Illinois, Minnesota, New York, North Dakota, South Dakota.
Okay. So just a handful. Dakotas.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's an interesting point. I'll have to look at that.
Yeah, because apparently it's saying, and again, this may be old.
Actually, Rage in those states.
But it's saying Rage 3 blades are not legal, but 2 blades are.
Okay. Well, whatever I'm shooting, it's getting blown through, so it's kind of a non-issue. But yeah, we want to be legal, obviously. But
I would assume it's fine because it's a 2-blade. Yeah, so I would assume it's fine.
It is a 2-blade. So, and I'm shooting the 2-inch, so it's a 2-inch cut.
Oh wow!
Yeah.
What's our tri-pans?
I think they're 1.5 inches.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Or maybe 1 3/4 inches.
Yeah.
So my hope is that by that switch, I've got 25 more grains up front, that much more increased FOC, that much more total arrow weight, that much bigger cutting diameter, that much more. I think, in my opinion, solid of a build. It's just it's just a little better construction.
Well, and again, I mean,
the rubber band is a potential weakness.
Yeah, but I mean, it is what it is. I don't know any other alternatives right now. I think it's a solid build. And then, I mean, if you've got your FOC correct, 500 grains, I mean, that's a hammer of an arrow. Do you see Mick sent those Easton Pro Comps?
I saw you guys going back and forth.
Yeah, I was looking at them just from a standpoint. It was interesting. And I think a couple people may have called it out on Troy's podcast too.
About being overspine.
Oh, you can overspine. It would allow no flex, and that arrow needs
what was the response? Because I asked that. I said, what's the consequence of being overspined? What was the response? Remember?
From Troy and those guys? You can't overspine it. That was their response.
Okay.
Whereas a lot of people are saying you could.
Because that affects the
arrow should be able to oscillate and then steady out, and it wouldn't. It wouldn't be able to flex, basically. Because the question then was going to be, well, why don't I just buy the stiffest arrow? Like, why would a brand just not put out the stiffest arrow possible?
I asked, yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm not a bow expert on that. I just rely on what everybody else says.
Yeah. Well, so if that's mine, you're probably at like what,
450s.
I don't think you're that heavy. I don't think your outserts are as heavy as mine.
62s.
62 grains.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I think I was 450s.
Okay, well that's not bad.
I
guess yeah, because your arrow overall is a lot. Your FOC is not as much.
Correct.
Because it's
yeah.
But that's the right move. You're shooting the right arrow.
Yep. So I'm just gonna I'll figure out
what kind of speed are you getting out of that arrow.
I don't know. I did buy a chronograph. I have one at home.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I want to buy a paper tuner.
Yeah. Do some bear shaft tuning.
I should be bear shafting all night in my garage.
What you doing out there? Bear shafting?
Yeah. This
With
is
who?
pretty easy to make. I just got to get some paper, some roller paper.
Yeah, roller paper.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. No, I have a chronograph at home now.
So we drew Kansas.
We drew Kansas. Yeah, we're going.
Now we got to figure out where we're going.
Yeah, because we, I mean, obviously we've got some spots where we've been going traditionally. Last year wasn't bad. It just we were spread out a little bit. And
the public
was washed.
Our headache.
Yeah. So I think we're back to, a little bit of the drawing boards of like, what do we have? What are our options? Where could we go? And then we've got a couple of units we're working with there. So we're looking at some properties and some public and stuff a little bit more north of where we're at. In retrospect, we probably would have put in for different units if we knew we were going to get drawn, or if we knew we were going to try to change things up.
Yeah.
So regardless, we're going. The question is, are we going to go early season or normal time? And we don't have an answer to that yet.
Both.
Yeah. I don't have a question or an answer to that yet. So, but we are going. We're going back.
We'll be there in July regardless. So we're going to run out for that Whitetail Properties national sales agent meeting. And that's only 2 days. So we'll take the next 3 days to kind of do our summer scouting and see what we can turn up.
Yep. And, but yeah, we'll be back. We'll be out there
June. Dude, this is the peak antler growth month.
I know. What is it? June, July. It's 90. It's like
by the end of this month, you're going to have a good idea of, well, so you got camera
92 or 93 days till the Kentucky opener. We also have to get some.
How many days till Kansas? Kansas is the 11th.
Yeah, it's like 111.
September 11th.
We also need to get new bows ordered.
What are you waiting for?
I don't know.
What do you mean, wait?
I guess I got to place the new bow order.
Yeah.
So we're gonna get some new Hoyts fired up this year.
Excited to convert one of our fellow crossbow friends to a
Hoyt.
That's happening.
That's like a baptismal.
Yeah. It is. Baptismal moment.
I'm still kind of, I don't know when I'll use it. I'm still kind of leaning on my Hoyt recurve a little bit too early in the season.
Why not?
I'll break that bad boy out here again.
Yeah.
Start shooting.
Yeah.
It's June. We've got past the rough points. It's now June.
I tell you who could talk you through that. And I told you not to do this before the podcast, but I'm going to go ahead and do it anyways. Josh Bomar reached out.
Yeah, Josh Bomar did reach out.
And
all you had to do is call him out a little bit, I guess.
We're working on maybe getting him on here at some point. But if that happens, I'm sure he'd be happy to share some first-time experience behind a recurve bow with you. I think he's killed some stuff.
Bought one of his nose buttons, too.
There you go. So you're getting a little bit of Bomar.
That'll be interesting when he comes on. That'll be interesting when he comes on.
Maybe teach you how to shoot a 200-incher.
I don't know about that.
We can only hope.
Yeah. So, all right. That'll do it for this week, and we'll catch you next week.
Later.
Take me